Hello and welcome to Marine Science Cafe podcast. I am finding it increasingly hilarious that I called this Marine Science Cafe because I don't drink coffee and generally speaking, I actually fill my cups with water. I know this is kind of demystifying the whole thing. I'm really sorry. But onto the podcast. Today's conversation is actually a conversation I had with 3 other marine biology students. So if you are an aspiring marine biologist or if you are a marine biology student, this is for you. I would like to introduce Mats, who study at the University of Copenhagen and also at Aarhus University, and who specializes in copepod poop, more or less. And it's absolutely fascinating. It is. I would like to introduce Connor, who is also studying at the University of Copenhagen and who is working on kingfish and their physiology and how that can be applied in the field of fisheries. And finally, I would like to introduce Sophie, who also studies at the University of Copenhagen and who is working on the symbiosis between dinoflagellates and corals using sea anemones as model organisms. On these words, I hope you enjoyed the discussion. One thing is for sure, I definitely enjoyed it. So thank you for watching. This is our wonderful team of marine biologists.
Yep.
Are we all marine biologists here?
Yeah, marine biology.
Really?
Becoming marine biologist, yeah.
Yeah,
This is crazy.
that's the plan anyway.
Yeah.
Wow. So what stage are we at? All masters?
Final year of masters.
Yeah, all of us second year masters doing like our thesis projects.
Yeah, masters. And I graduated from my masters. So I'm here. Cool. I don't know.
We just introduced ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
Mats.
idea.
I'm Mads, and I am doing masters at Aarhus University, working with copepods from the Arctic Greenland.
Copepod.
Copepod being
what
like
are
a
copepod?
small animal that's full of fat and it's like a centimeter large, and it's one that the whales eat, basically. That's whale food.
So you're the guy who wanted to study whales, and now you study the poop of whale food.
It is true. I have been counting a lot of shit.
This is the length of the shit, so you have to times this by 25 micrometer, and that means there is like at least 2 kilometers of shit here.
Holy shit! You've measured all this shit?
Yeah. So
2 kilometers of shit?
You get small poops and you measure the poop
Can I
length.
see? So what kind of shit are we talking about here?
It's hyperborean shit.
Calanus hyperboreus shit?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of some of them contains some smaller shits, and that's from Fimarchicus.
Ah, you also have Finmarchicus shit?
Yeah, because that goes through the filter.
Why are you counting Calanus shit?
I am counting Calanus shit to see if they want to eat or not.
And do they want to eat?
Apparently, because they shit a lot.
Yeah, but it's important, right?
Yeah, we are looking at the feeding pattern and the fat, the lipid content of the creatures when they go down to hibernate during the winter.
Yeah, I have lots of footage of you doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Counting.
Going through poop, yeah.
Yes, we can talk about that.
We
I think it'd be very interesting. Yeah, I mean.
we can let the other
maybe-
introduce them first.
Yes.
Like,
I'm sorry, poop is fascinating.
So I'm Connor and I study at Copenhagen University. So I'm working on my project right now, which is I'm investigating different like physiological effects on kingfish, which is a species of fish. They kind of look like tuna, but the idea is to grow them in aquaculture, and nobody's really growing them at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's potential to be like a huge market. So I think where Mass is more looking at ecology, I'm more looking at physiology, and I want to try and apply that into like an industry once I finish, hopefully.
Interesting. So it's a fish that people eat?
Yeah, it's a fish. It's used for sushi and sashimi. Yeah.
But is it like, because I know that tuna cannot be, it's farmed, but it's not
very
really being bred in captivity. So they go and get the fish out
like
in the
the
ocean.
larvae and
they bring it back when they're juvenile, and then they farm them.
Yeah, but that's not.
But they're not bred in captivity, so they're not technically.
So it's not really that productive because you're still taking out like the wild population, I guess.
So
But
is it the same with kingfish?
no, they can breed them from.
They can breed them.
They can.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's got a potential to like completely get rid of the tuna in the fish markets in like Japan, because Japan are like huge culprits of taking species of tuna that are endangered, because you can't really. I mean, it always gets caught. So for me anyway, it's really interesting. It's got real world applications.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Real world applications.
Yeah.
I should have thought about that.
Copepod poop.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sure we can find some real world
It's
application
niche, but
to
it's,
it.
okay.
it's gonna be out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And you're studying corals?
Yeah, true. I'm also at Copenhagen University studying corals, but I'm actually, it's quite funny because I'm studying the kind of photophysiology of the symbiosis between the dinoflagellates and the corals. But I'm actually not working with corals at all because I'm using a sea anemone, Aptasia, as like a model organism.
Okay.
They're easier to work with and they have the same symbionts. So,
what are symbionts?
symbionts, they're
What's
like...
a symbiotic
Yeah,
relationship?
symbiosis is kind of where they both have a relationship and they both gain something from it.
Okay.
So
it's
they
the
have
opposite of, or it's
parasites,
like parasitical
yeah.
relationships.
Yeah, exactly. So they both gain from it. From in corals, they have their algae, dinoflagellates, living inside, which do photosynthesis and provide the corals with energy from that.
And what are they called?
Which zooxanthellae?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The zooxanthellae.
Yeah.
They're called a lot of different things, but
Yeah.
zooxanthellae. Yeah.
Is there different species?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think there's 7 clades right now. So I'm working with 3 different clades to study how the different clades differ. Because there's definitely talk about that some clades are better if you talk about global warming.
Yeah.
Some clades are better at adapting to higher sea temperatures and more irradiation and stuff like that. So working with different clades and seeing how they differ.
Yeah. And I guess depending on where, because it's funny because when we were on a cruise in northeast Greenland, we caught some coral.
We caught some.
Coral.
We found some corals. Yeah.
We found corals, but they're deep sea corals.
Oh yeah. But
So they don't, or there's nothing that photosynthesizes in these corals, right? What's the difference between the corals that are closer to the surface?
The corals that I study with are from like coral reefs, so they have their symbionts obviously, but there's also a lot of corals deep sea corals that don't have symbionts, but they can feed themselves.
Okay.
And mine just do that too. Just they have their tentacles and then they can catch it, and they have the stinger cells inside.
Yeah.
So that's the way.
And then they also have the small thing that can photosynthesize.
Yeah.
So they can do both.
Yeah.
The ones that you studied.
Yeah, the ones that can do both. Yeah.
Yeah.
But mostly get their energy from symbionts. But
because that's interesting because I thought that one of the reason why corals die from bleaching is because the zooxanthellae get expelled.
Yeah.
So they turn white, which is the bleaching. But then that means they're starving because the zooxanthellae are not there anymore to feed the coral.
Yeah.
But then you're saying that the ones you're studying can feed themselves without zooxanthellae.
All corals can feed themselves.
Okay,
but
it's just not
like,
enough for them to
it's
feed.
not enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they still turn white, right?
Yeah. And they're not dead just because they're bleached, because they can feed themselves. But over a longer period of time, and especially if the temperatures and stuff keep rising, then they can't get any symbionts back. So.
That's interesting. I didn't know that they could feed themselves.
Yeah.
For a bit, at least.
Yeah.
Cool.
Some are better than others to feed.
Yeah.
So they're so dependent on it. It's like us with gut bacteria, I guess. Like if we don't have gut bacteria, then we can't actually digest food and stuff. So they are really reliant on it.
That's a really
But
good
we have
analogy.
same temperature, so we're not going to rise in temperature with them.
So
that's like, it's not parasitic. It's totally like a beneficial relationship between both of them, and they've evolved to that point where they're so reliant on each other now, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, just as we are with gut bacteria.
Yeah, we could definitely not process food without them.
Yeah.
Your poor copepod would not poop anymore.
My cobots would keep pooping. They don't care about
Yeah,
That's
right
how
there.
long you've been counting.
They
poop.
care
Yeah.
about plankton, the water, phytoplankton.
Even though we're all studying like completely separate things, that marine biology is such a big area that it all ties in together, right? Like
Definitely.
you always be working with people in different fields, that different specializations, like with maths, with his like plankton and corals, fish. Like it's one big network, so you'd have to work with people with different subject areas.
Yeah.
So it's just so interesting. If you're interested in that area, you'll meet people and you'll be like, oh, that's so cool. Like I never thought about studying that. You know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe a technique or something that you use
Yeah.
on fish, you can use on corals
Yeah, totally.
or different
Like
kind of.
there's a guy in the labs that I'm working with, the Peruvian guy,
Yeah,
Daniel,
I know.
and he's doing gene, he's looking at genes in bacteria, but he's actually looking at the deepest found bacteria ever in the world that's been sampled from the Marianas Trench. And
wow,
there could
that's
be
cool.
anything in there, you know, that they can actually investigate, and then you can try and see, oh well, we found this here, but we've also found it in this fish. Why do we find it here? And
Yeah.
you know, so it's all like, it doesn't matter what you study within the network. You speak to different people, and ideas are always like flowing and exchanging between people.
Yeah, for sure. So why did you guys get into marine biology?
Yeah,
Nice
what a
question.
good question.
Did you want to study dolphins? You wanted to study whales? Dolphins? Whales?
Corals.
Corals!
Always
Yeah, corals.
Yeah.
Not even close. No.
I think I got hooked on the whales because it was large animals, and I really hate working with stuff I can't see.
It went well.
So you transition to microscopic.
So
poop.
this is such an interesting point though, because I talked to Mette as well about this, and she is obsessed with whales, and she wanted to study whales as well. I mean, I don't know if she still is obsessed, but she was when she was a
studies
kid.
krill.
And she studies
Ah.
krill,
Yeah.
right? Now she studies whale food.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't even think she studies krill because it's whale food. She just studies krill because it's cool.
Yeah.
But she realized later on that it's cool to study krill. That's just as cool, if not even cooler than studying whales.
You think of it as this useless animal that can't do anything, and then you figure out that krill can actually go like underneath the ice and feed there, and could go down to the bottom and feed there, and can do this in one day.
Yeah.
And that can be like 400 meters deep and just migrate up and down
Passion.
like
Yeah.
nothing ever buried. And so if we have the copepods, they have to stay up where there's phytoplankton because they're not that large.
But they also
the
do.
krill can come and eat the copepods.
So the copepods are important
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
krill.
If there's no phytoplankton to be had, they'll eat the copepods.
But the copepod are important for the whales as well.
Yeah.
The which whale is it that eat the
Or the bowhead whale.
bowhead
Oh,
whales?
The heavy whale. It's like
Which is
Greenland.
insane. They're specialists on copepod.
yeah.
They eat like
I'm always wondering how they exactly find the copepods because I know they're in big swarms, but it's like still.
they must
very
be in
small.
really big swarms to feed a whale.
Yeah.
That was what you kind of wanted to go for, like whales. That was your interest before you started studying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I started studying, it was actually just I lived next to a forest when I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
You lived next to a forest?
So how does that
That's
connect?
agree.
I know. I'm like,
So-
that makes sense.
You wanted
right?
to study
Like,
trees.
I thought biology was cool, and
Okay.
then it turned out to be marine biology.
Okay.
I don't know how. It's just
maybe just because it was something you hadn't been, if you lived next to a forest growing up, right? I guess.
Yeah, but I live in Denmark, so it's always close to water. So
Yeah, that's true.
that's
yeah.
not an excuse.
Yeah.
You watched Free Willy.
Yeah.
And then he was hooked.
No.
Not a big fan.
I never had that whole sort of like, it sounds like it's really deterring because I see a lot of people, like as I was saying earlier, about people online being like, oh, I want to be a marine biologist, you know, like save the dolphins or something. They're really into something, right?
Yeah.
Why is it always save the I agree we should save the whales, but I know we have to save them before we can study them, else they'll be gone. But I just think that the awesome thing about whales is not just to save them; it's what they can do, the creatures. So if I want to study whales, of course I'll have to do some conservation because else they'll be gone. I can't study them. But if you really want to do it, like what they can do and how they feed and
Well, these two things are linked though. It's difficult to do conservation of any given species if you don't understand their biology.
That is true.
So
But
But more and more projects is just how many are left. How can we?
That's like the Yangtze dolphin,
Yeah.
the one that they debated for so long about how they're going to save it because it was the last one left.
Oh,
It
the
got killed by a
Wakita.
boat.
Yeah.
Not the Wakita.
The Yangtze pink
Oh,
river
yeah,
dolphin,
yeah.
They debated.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah,
politics
yeah,
and
yeah,
science
yeah.
sometimes just don't come together.
No.
But like I was saying, I never had that interest from being a kid in marine biology. Like I actually never had any interest in marine biology for a long time.
Did you
Or
want
just-
I hated the sea.
What about biology? You hated the sea.
I hated the sea. I
You
hated
still
the
do.
sea. I hated swimming in it. I had
The
absolutely
marine
no
biologist
interest.
who hated the sea.
But you're
And
from,
my friends like really make jokes. And so
but
do
you're
my
from
family
Scotland.
about
The
this.
water's really cold there.
Yeah, that didn't stop me though, right? Like, but it was just when I was at school and then I was like, oh, you know, I kind of like biology. It sounds kind of fun. It's interesting how this sort of stuff works. And then, genuinely, it was just I was applying and I was like, biology sounds a bit generic. Maybe I should go for marine biology instead. It sounds a bit more interesting. And it wasn't really until I started studying about it that I started to develop my interest. And I remember the first day I was there for university, the guy had spoken to like all of us. There was only 30 of us in the class. He was like, oh, so you've all wanted to like study something, you know, you're interested in this and that. And I was the only person who went, no. And it immediately stood out. So I don't know, like I wouldn't be deterred to study a subject just because like everybody else seems to be so focused and knowing what they're doing. But it took me like 3 years before I actually thought, you know, this is what I really want to do. I want to be involved in aquaculture. And then I did my thesis in my 4th year and then I started my master's in it. So yeah, I totally never had that whole like childhood ambition of doing this, right?
Yeah.
So
It
I
was
totally
the same,
think
same for me.
so I totally think people shouldn't be deterred because others are showing like such a passion at like different ages, right? I think it's definitely like a learning sort of
You can
process.
learn to love something.
Yeah, definitely. It's a
You
learning
can
process.
learn to love Copepod.
You can.
So yeah, so for me it was more kind of like a journey of finding out what it was I wanted to do, and I totally don't regret it. I really enjoy what I do now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, it's the same for me.
Yeah.
And it took me more than 3 years to find out. In fact, I just kind of found out 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Well, yeah, more or less. But I've always had a vague idea of what it was that I wanted to do, and I wanted to do biology for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
But
Did you
it
not
was never
feel...
marine biology. I wanted to
Okay.
be a naturalist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you not
Oh,
feel
the
kind
old
of
school
like...
ones.
I wanted to be a naturalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to have an office like David's, full of skulls and feathers and skeletons of cool
Yeah.
animals. Yeah.
I felt like when I was at uni the first year anyway, like it was quite disencouraging because everybody seemed like so focused on what they wanted to do. But like as Matt said, he was looking at whales and then suddenly he's like, oh, but plankton, you know? And then so it's totally like the more you learn about it, the more you really find your interests, I think.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will have these grand ideas of these huge animals that get obviously a lot more media attention, but then as you start learning about the subject in the area, you really start finding your niche.
But you did. You wanted to study corals when you got into. That's
Yeah.
funny. So
Yeah.
you're one of
You
these
got your
people.
dream.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, you found
He's
your
just
yeah.
moving you in.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm totally being like, I'm just being sour. That's what it is.
People suck.
Yeah. These people accomplishing their dreams.
When did it start with the corals? Like how far back?
Out
Is
the
this
womb.
like
Out
start
the
of
womb.
biology
Love
or?
corals.
No, way further.
She was born loving corals.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. No,
It's like
I've
5
always,
years just picking up seeing all these.
when I was 7, we traveled around Australia for 3.5 months, me and my family,
Wow.
and did a lot of snorkeling, and I've always loved the sea and always loved being in it. But then when we went to Great Barrier Reef, I really just loved snorkeling and seeing how the whole reef is just a big ecosystem with all the fish and all kinds of animals living in it. And yeah, I think that's when it started. And then just been doing that
hooked.
role.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's
So
all.
what I got
So-
from that was like you grew up in a cold place, you hated the water. You grew up in a hot place, loved the water.
Yeah, well, I didn't grow up in a hot
But
place.
I think I learned my passion through scuba diving as well in Scotland,
Yeah.
and that was cold then.
Yeah.
But you know, I did it.
But
I-
you wanted to do that like as a child and then a teenager, and and everything you did was around the goal of becoming a marine biologist who studies coral.
I chose when we go to like high school, you have to choose like which way and which subject you have to go, and I hate math. But you have to have on like an
But it's
A
important.
level. Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
have an A level to study biology. So I had to take that. direction, and yeah, I knew, and I did my bachelor in corals as well. Did a project before that on corals, and
Wow, this is really interesting.
Yeah, I went
Yeah.
to Australia on exchange as well to study corals. Yeah.
Wow, you look at him.
I know, I'm just like totally like opposite sides of the coin here. Yeah.
I'm not listening to this.
I'm just like thinking, what did I do back then? I was like, can't remember doing
I spent
anything
4
like
years
that.
of being at school.
Yeah, I know.
No, but I mean, like, it's been, but sometimes I think about, okay, so I've been so focused and I decided, like, many years ago, okay, I want to study corals. Like, did I miss something? Because I've just been so focused in that direction.
You
So
definitely missed
Yeah,
out on
but-
whales.
yeah. Well, I love whales, but yeah,
They're
I
not
don't know
as
if I
cool.
want to study them. Yeah.
But it's really interesting as well, because I think that when you start getting specialized into a field like corals,
Yeah.
when you want to study corals or whales, you don't actually understand what it is that you want to
No.
study, right? I want to
No.
study whales. Well, that doesn't mean anything,
No.
right? You think that the animal looks cool and you just want to study a cool animal.
Yeah.
Same with the corals. But then when you start getting deeper into it, it becomes so much more specific. You're doing almost chemistry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's
Now
biochemistry.
Now
Yeah.
you're doing chemistry and you're talking about these things that no one understands
Yeah.
unless you define them.
Yeah.
And that actually is not the kind of thing that people think about when they're
No, no.
saying, I want to study corals.
Definitely not. Like,
Right.
never thought, I've never been that good at chemistry, so I didn't think I would go that direction, but then it just kind of went.
Should that
Yeah,
be like a
from one-
general note? Biologist is good at chemistry.
Yeah.
You have to learn it.
Yeah, have to learn it. So,
And you like it,
yeah, very
Yeah.
interesting, very, very interesting.
and you still want to study corals.
Yeah.
So,
Forever now.
Yeah, forever. Well, hey, you're saying no, but I'm pretty sure that's what you're
Yeah. No, I think it's just, yeah, so when I was 7, we went to a place called Heron Island, which is on the Great Barrier Reef, and I just went there, 2 years ago on my exchange, and it was so sad to see, you can clearly see the difference, like the reef
Yeah,
was not,
you can.
like, only like 10% of it left, and it was
Yeah.
not healthy at all, so,
Yeah,
I mean, that just encourages more to just
Yeah.
keep working on it, and
yeah.
hopefully save them someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's when I was a kid, I didn't tell you, but I was living on the sailboat. Did I ever tell you?
No.
No. Okay.
Lived on a
then no one
sailboat?
knows. Yeah, I lived on the sailboat for several
Wow.
years, for
That's
almost
incredible.
a decade actually,
Beautiful.
and we spent a lot of time traveling around the West Indies.
Mm-hmm.
And that was before your age, kids.
Yeah.
Considering I'm much older than you. So, and I was doing a lot of snorkeling.
Mm-hmm.
My brother and I, and my parents, who were snorkeling all the
Yeah.
time in the West Indies and the Bahamas, and it was just mind blowing.
Yeah.
The colors and
Imagine.
the different species of fish and corals and I don't know, lots of really colorful stuff. And then maybe 4, 5, oh my god, longer than that, 6 years ago, I lived in Singapore and I went snorkeling in Thailand. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I don't even know why people snorkel.
No.
there. I don't even know why. There is nothing.
Yeah.
And I just, the memory I had of snorkeling above coral reefs was so vivid.
Yeah.
We even have pictures, but I mean, it was so vivid. And I thought that that's what I was going to see. And it was gone.
Yeah.
And you could see,
yeah.
you could see that there used to be corals. You
Yeah.
could see the remnants. It was just like being above a graveyard.
Yeah.
And they had dozens and dozens of boats with hundreds of people on the boats that were all jumping at the same time
Yeah.
with their snorkel outfit to see the corals.
Yeah.
And
And
it-
if you haven't
it's
seen anything
crazy.
else, then
No, of
they
course.
don't know. Like,
and they do this crazy thing where they throw bread in the water to attract
Yeah.
the fish, because the fish are not coral fish
Yeah.
anymore. They're just a different species that has taken over. There's probably just this one species of fish, and it's just there because people are throwing bread
Yeah.
and it's eating. And if there's no bread, they start biting the people because they want the bread.
Yeah.
Wow,
It's
okay.
really, it was a horrifying experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I can kind of
yeah.
relate to.
It's really, I mean, just.
I would not want to go back to the
No.
West Indies and see
No.
those corals
Yeah.
that I have seen when I
it's
was
really,
a kid.
really sad. And just thinking
Yeah.
about that, like, my kids and stuff, they might not be able to see a coral reef. Like, that's
No.
crazy to me.
Yeah.
That it's that way. But
it's not heading in a great direction
It's
either.
not. No.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's, I just watched a YouTube video
Yeah.
not too long ago about some people who are now, what they do is that they select corals that seem to be handling the bleaching events.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they try and breed these particular corals
Yeah.
so that they can handle
Yeah, selectively
more of
choosing
Yeah.
these warming events that
But
causes
is
the
that not
bleaching.
just you will eventually have other species taking over?
Yeah, that sounds like it would happen naturally, but maybe that's
No.
I mean,
Trying
the thing is that you do. I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about corals. Yes, you do
So
have other
you
species
want the
that take
diversity
over.
as well in the coral reefs
Yeah.
because you can't. These symbionts are really specific,
Yeah.
and you can have something that goes and eat this specific algae living within the coral, and that what creates the whole full life above the coral reef, right?
Yeah.
And you want that back, and if you're just gonna put one species in, I'm not sure I see that
And
happening.
then plus, like, okay, so that clade might be better at handling warmer sea temperatures and stuff, but I mean, in this, at that rate, it's increasing. I mean, okay, they'll last for 5 years, and then they can't handle over 30, 32 degrees anyway. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
so it might be just like a temporary solution, but
Yeah.
it's definitely not, yeah, but hopefully it's like, yeah, just doing research and seeing what we can do. And
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is interesting. It's an interesting question, actually. What does it feel like? It's kind of depressing, but to study
Dying things.
Yeah.
study things that are disappearing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, I think that makes it kind of more rewarding in that sense, I feel, because you're
Yeah.
making an effort to do something. Like, I know, like I said, I would like to work in an industry, but the reason isn't just to make money, it's actually about food security. It's about providing food. One of the big things is a lot of really poor countries rely on wild fish stocks, and when we go out there and harvest it, although it might not be from that region, it still has like an overspill effect and completely affects that. So by actually being able to breed fish in captivity and raise them, you're allowing these wild stocks to naturally replenish.
But how
And-
about catching wild fish to feed the stuff you're...
But that's another branch of research
Yeah,
as
that,
well.
I did that for my bachelor's, and they're looking at
Right.
plant-based diets,
Yes.
which is another huge bit of research that's going into that.
But the kingfish seems like one of these fish that needs a lot of fish proteins. No?
Yeah,
Unlike
yeah.
something like the tilapia that is
Yeah, I mean,
omnivorous and can
yeah.
can be turned into
It's pretty-
vegetarian.
But it's easy to kind of like kind of shit on aquaculture, I feel, because if you compare it with a lot of areas of science that have been going on for like 100 years. I mean, if you go back 100 years where people have started to look at things, aquaculture's only been like 40 years really, 50 years
Yeah.
since it's taken off. So it's still a developing process, and now we're starting to see things where like, well, we're growing fish, is it efficient to feed them fish? You know, like
Yeah.
if we're going to be eating them, why don't we just harvest them directly at the sea? So this is where you start getting other branches of people looking at, like plant biologists looking at, is there protein in these plants that we can feed them instead? So it's kind of like trying to make things more efficient, I guess.
Yeah.
But my main concern is more about like food security, providing global food security.
Yes, yeah, and this is the PhD that I have accepted in the UK is about seafood traceability.
Okay, yeah, but barcoding.
Yeah, using genetics for seafood
Exactly.
traceability and identifying mislabeling.
Yeah, about where it came from. Yeah, because a lot of food, I believe, especially in less regulated parts of the world, they'll say, oh, it's this, and it's totally not
It's
what you're
not.
buying.
It's
Yeah.
not.